first day out is on Adventure Antigua, a powerboat ride that brings people out to the smaller islands off Antigua for some fun in the sun. All aboard! As we rode out to sea, we took in a few of the sights that surrounded this beautiful island. We headed to a small island called Gianna Island, where our tour guide explained the very important ecosystem that provides mating for its habitat.
The biggest offshore island around Antigua is called Gianna Island. If you look on the left-hand side, you can see the roots of the red mangrove plant growing into the water. And the red mangrove is so important because juvenile species of all sorts of marine life get their start in areas like this. In fact, some fish that don't even live in this area will come into this area just to lay eggs. And when the little guys hatch out and they get big enough and strong enough, they'll swim out into the Atlantic. And sometimes if you look really carefully close to the mangroves, you can see little tiny fish hiding amongst the roots. Why are they hiding? They're hiding from pelicans, they're hiding from juvenile fish, like juvenile predator fish, like barracuda. Almost every barracuda born begins its life in a mangrove habitat. So the big mama barracuda swims in from the Atlantic, she lays her eggs in the mangrove roots. When the little guys hatch out, they hide in the roots because they're too small, they'll get eaten by everything else. As soon as they get to be about an inch long, they start feeding on the other little tiny fish. And they'll live here until they're about a foot long before they journey back out into the Atlantic, into the offshore reefs. So it's a very active food chain and a critically important ecosystem for, not just for Antigua, but for all sorts of islands nearby. Over on the right hand side you can see some more of the flats we talked about. And depending on the tides, sometimes we can see fish feeding on some of the flats. And when there's a very low tide, you'll see all sorts of heron and egrets picking up crabs and small fish that get stuck in tidal pools over on the right hand side. Very, very important.
Soon we're off again to head to another island and for some more adventuring. We picked up a visitor along the way who hung out with us for part of the ride out to sea. This is the Great Bird Island. Our crew brought us into shore and anchored for a while as we hiked up the island hill and we took in the spectacular views.
After everybody comes back down here, we're going to do a very quick snorkeling lesson for those of you who haven't snorkeled before or haven't been snorkeling for a long time. And then we're going to anchor up just outside here and have some lunch. So lunch will be in about half an hour or so, maybe a little bit longer than half.
Great Bird Island is a limestone island and it has some of the most endangered animals on the planet living on it. The nice thing about this island is that it's the highest of the 22 little islands off Antigua. It is a fantastic view of all the reef islands nearby.
The Great Bird Island.
Some of us tested the waters and others did some snorkeling and kayaking. But soon it was time to come aboard again for lunch. Boy was it good. Having fun in the sun sure brings on a healthy appetite. Soon we're off again, out to sea, where we'll climb a rock formation known as Hell's Gate. Whoa, there it is! We dropped anchor and got our instructions from the captain.
And there's a tunnel which goes right through the middle of the island to the other side. Crouch down low, and you follow the boys through the cave, through the tunnel. You end up climbing up on top of the island, and you can actually walk right across that bridge. The most adventurous choice is definitely going over the Hell's Gate and climbing through the island. All of the rocks are very much eroded limestone, so you can see it's quite sharp. So this is why we don't serve rum punch before you come here. You want to have your wits about you as you go through there.
This is a rock formation in the ocean made from limestone, a very jaggedy, rugged rock that most definitely requires water shoes. Thank God for those shoes. We all took the plunge into the blue-green exotic waters. The guides explained to us how the rock formations were created by the seawater over time for millions of years. This was the most interesting rock that I had ever encountered.
Other than Port Royal and Jamaica, six there's the National Bridge there. And from the top, it's quite common to see fish feeding down below.
We trekked over the rocks and through the tunnel.
Parrotfish feeding down below. And then you back down to what we call the jacuzzi.
When we finally made it through, there was cause for celebration. Soon it was time to take up anchor again and head off to yet another island for some snorkeling and some other delicious beverages. We got our fins and slipped onto the side of the boat and proceeded to jump into the magnificent ocean waters again. We were looking for those barracudas the guy was telling us about. Yeah, right. Now it was time for the crew to break out the rum punch and sit back and take in the scenery. After a tiresome and adventurous day at sea.
Look how we cut it when they go to the cricket. Make that loud sound. Hard. Every time a guy knock a 4 runs out 6 runs. It's actually very hard. But Johnny's going to rest his back down in the water right now.